Part 1. The Invisible Man. The $100 bill hit the concrete floor of the garage like an insult wrapped in paper. Crisp. New. The kind of money Sophia Hayes probably spent on lunch without checking the receipt. Daniel Carter didn't move, didn't bend down, didn't even blink. Behind him, his daughter Lily's small fingers tightened on the back of his work shirt, bunching the worn fabric into her fist. She was 8 years old, and she hated confrontation. Always had. Ever since the accident that took her mother and left Daniel alone to raise a child who could hear things no one else could hear. "Pick it up." Sophia's voice cut through the garage like winter steel. Sharp. Cold. Entitled in a way that came from never hearing the word no. The estate garage was massive, 20 cars worth of space. Tonight it held 6 of the world's best automotive engineers, one $15 million 1961 Ferrari 250 GT that wouldn't start, and one increasingly angry billionaire who was running out of time and patience in equal measure. "Consider it payment for wasting my time." Daniel kept his eyes on the woman standing 5 feet away in designer heels that probably cost more than his monthly salary. She was 38 years old, and she looked like someone who'd never had to pick anything up off the floor in her entire life. "I haven't wasted anything, ma'am. I was walking past. You stopped me. You looked. That's enough." Lily's hand trembled against his back. Daniel could feel her breath coming faster. The garage was too bright, too loud with frustrated experts arguing over diagnostic tablets. She didn't do well in crowds, never had. "We'll be going now." He turned toward the door. "No." The single word stopped him. Not because it was loud, because it was absolute. Sophia Hayes stepped closer. Her heels clicked against the concrete like a countdown. Each step deliberate. Each step a reminder of who owned this garage, this estate, this entire sprawling property where Daniel had worked for the past 4 years, maintaining hedges and mowing lawns, and being invisible. "You'll pick up that money first. I don't like things lying on my floor." Hans Mueller shifted uncomfortably near the Ferrari. He was the lead engineer flown in from Detroit, 60 years old with wire-rimmed glasses and 3 decades of experience with vintage automotive systems. He'd been working on the Ferrari for 2 hours and had accomplished exactly nothing. "Miss Hayes, perhaps we should focus on the vehicle. The auction begins in 90 minutes and—" "Shut up, Hans!" Sophia never took her eyes off Daniel. The other 5 engineers went quiet. They'd learned. When Sophia Hayes was in this mood, you didn't interrupt. You didn't offer suggestions. You definitely didn't try to redirect her attention. At least this one can provide entertainment. Daniel met her gaze. He'd faced worse than angry billionaires, congressional oversight committees, Pentagon generals, men who could end careers with a phone call, men who had. This woman had money, and she had cruelty, but she didn't have power over him. Not anymore. Not since he'd given up everything that made him matter to anyone, except the little girl currently hiding behind him. "I'm not picking it up." "Excuse me?" "The money. I'm not picking it up." "You dropped it. You pick it up." The garage went absolutely silent. 6 engineers who'd flown in from 3 different states at enormous expense stared at the groundskeeper like he'd lost his mind. Nobody talked to Sophia Hayes that way. Nobody. Her father had built Hayes Technologies from nothing. Satellites, defense contracts, telecommunications infrastructure that connected half the western United States. When Edward Hayes died 3 years ago, Sophia inherited everything. The company, the estate, the absolute certainty that everyone around her existed to serve her needs. She smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "Do you know who I am?" "Yes, ma'am." "Do you know I could fire you right now?" "Yes, ma'am." Do you know I could make one phone call and ensure you never work in this state again? Daniel paused. He thought about the small cottage on the eastern edge of the estate, the garden where Lily grew tomatoes, the routine they'd built over 4 years, breakfast together, school drop-off, his grounds work while she was in class, homework help in the evenings, bedtime stories about her mother. 4 years of peace. 4 years of invisibility. 4 years of being exactly where he needed to be when his daughter needed him. Yes, ma'am, I know. Then pick up the money. No, Lily whispered into his shirt. Daddy. He squeezed her hand gently through the fabric. It's okay, sweetheart. Sophia laughed, sharp, brittle, like glass breaking in slow motion. My God, the groundskeeper has a spine. That's almost charming. She turned to Hans Mueller. This is more entertainment than you've provided in 2 hours. Maybe I should have him look at the car instead. The engineers exchanged glances. One of them, a younger man named Peterson from the Hayes Technologies Engineering Division, actually rolled his eyes. Miss Hayes, Hans said carefully, with respect. This is a 1961 Ferrari 250 GT, one of 7 ever made. The ignition system alone is worth more than most houses. We need more time to... I have 90 minutes before 300 guests arrive for the charity auction. This car is the centerpiece. Edward Blackwell flew in from Boston specifically to bid on it. He's been trying to acquire one for 20 years. If this car doesn't run, the auction falls apart. If the auction falls apart, I lose $200 million in pledges, partnerships, and my father's reputation. She was breathing hard now. Daniel saw something flash behind her eyes. Not just anger. Fear. So no, Hans. You don't have more time. You have no more time. You failed. All of you failed. Thunder rolled across the estate. The storm that had been threatening all evening was getting closer. Rain hammered against the garage roof like impatient fingers drumming on a table. Lily tugged Daniel's shirt again. Daddy? Not now, sweetheart. But Daddy, the car. Emma, please. She fell silent, but she was staring at the Ferrari with that look Daniel knew too well. The tilted head, the slightly unfocused eyes, the listening. Sophia noticed. What's wrong with your daughter? Nothing's wrong with her. She's staring at my car like she's having some kind of episode. Daniel's jaw tightened. The anger he'd spent 4 years learning to control surged up, hot and familiar. She's fine. She doesn't look fine. She's fine. The word came out harder than he intended. 4 years of buried rage compressed into 2 syllables. Sophia stepped back, surprised. For a moment, nobody moved. The rain drummed. The fluorescent lights hummed. 6 engineers held their breath. Then Lily spoke. Her voice was soft, dreamlike, the way it always was when she was listening to something only she could hear. The car is crying. Peterson snorted. What? Inside. The car is crying. It wants to run, but something's hurting it. Can't you hear it? Hans Mueller knelt down to Lily's level, not unkindly. His own daughter was about the same age. He understood how to talk to children without condescension. Little one, the car isn't making any sound. It won't start. Not that kind of sound. Lily looked at him with her mother's dark eyes. The inside sound. The one machines make when they're sad. Sophia laughed again. This time it sounded forced, uncertain. Perfect. The groundskeeper's daughter is insane. This night keeps getting better. Don't talk about my daughter that way. Daniel's voice was quiet. Dangerous. Every engineer in the garage heard the shift. Hans Mueller stood up slowly and took a step back. Or what? You'll quit? Please, you're replaceable. Everyone here is replaceable. Sophia gestured at the mechanics. These so-called experts are replaceable. My entire staff is replaceable. The only thing that isn't replaceable is that car, and it's broken. Lightning flashed outside. Close. The storm was almost on top of them. Lily whispered, "It has 2 heartbeats, Daddy." Daniel froze. The car. It has 2 heartbeats, but they're fighting. He looked at his daughter. Really looked at her. She was 8 years old, and she'd inherited something from him that he'd spent decades pretending wasn't real. Not his education, not his training, something deeper. The ability to hear what others couldn't. Sarah used to call it his engineer's ear, the way he could walk into a room full of running machinery and know instantly if something was wrong. Not from readings, not from data, from sound, from rhythm, from the subtle harmonics that computers couldn't quantify, but human intuition could feel. Lily had it too, stronger than he ever did. The doctors called it synesthesia, a cross-wiring in the brain that let her perceive electromagnetic fields as sound. She'd been tested, scanned, studied. The condition was real, rare but real. And it ran in families. 2 heartbeats fighting. Daniel closed his eyes. He listened. The garage was full of ambient noise, the storm outside, the hum of fluorescent lights, the breathing of 8 people, the distant rumble of thunder. But beneath all of that, so faint he almost missed it, there was something. A whisper of electromagnetic discharge, a phantom frequency, something that shouldn't be there. His eyes snapped open. You installed something new on this car. Recently, within the last month. Something electronic that wasn't original to the vehicle. Sophia frowned. What? Hans stepped forward. That's impossible. This car is completely original. Every component has been verified authentic for the auction. There's a GPS tracker, Daniel said. Hidden somewhere in the dash or under the hood. Modern, probably for insurance purposes. It's emitting a frequency that's interfering with the ignition timing. Silence. Then Sophia laughed. You're joking. I'm not. You're a groundskeeper. Yes, ma'am. You mow lawns and trim hedges? Yes, ma'am. And you're telling me, with 6 of the world's best mechanics standing right here, that you've diagnosed a problem none of them could find from 10 feet away without touching the car? Yes, ma'am. The mechanics were staring at him now, really looking. Peterson had stopped rolling his eyes. Hans was frowning thoughtfully. Even the other engineers had put down their diagnostic tablets. I have to say, Hans murmured, there was a GPS tracker installed 2 weeks ago. Insurance requirement for the auction. But it was positioned according to manufacturer specifications. It shouldn't cause any interference. Where was it positioned? Under the dashboard, left side, near the original wiring harness. That's too close to the ignition coil. These cars had a known sensitivity issue with electromagnetic interference. The signature from a modern tracker would create harmonic disruption in the coil's firing pattern. The car thinks it's starting, but the signal is getting scrambled before it reaches the spark plugs. Peterson whistled softly under his breath. Sophia's expression had shifted. The mockery was still there, but underneath it, something else. Hope. Terrible, unwanted hope. She hated that Daniel could see her hating it. This is ridiculous. You expect me to believe a gardener knows more about vintage Ferraris than experts who've worked on these cars for decades? I don't expect you to believe anything, ma'am. I'm just telling you what I hear. What you hear from a car that isn't running. Yes, ma'am. You're insane. Maybe. Thunder cracked overhead. So close the lights flickered. Rain poured down harder. Sophia turned to Hans. Is he right? Hans hesitated. I don't know. It's theoretically possible. The electromagnetic interference theory is sound, but to diagnose it without any equipment, just by listening? He shook his head. That's not engineering, that's impossible, Sophia finished. She looked at Daniel again. This time her eyes were calculating, measuring, trying to figure out what game he was playing. Okay, groundskeeper. You want to play expert? Prove it. Ma'am, I don't want to play anything. I just want to take my daughter home. No. You made a claim. Back it up. She stepped toward him, close enough that he could smell her perfume. Expensive, complicated, like everything about her. Fix my car. I'm not a mechanic. You just diagnosed it like one. Diagnosis isn't repair. Then find someone who can repair it. She was standing very close now, close enough to see the exhaustion in her eyes, the fear beneath the cruelty, the desperation of someone who'd spent 3 years trying to fill her father's shoes and was finally, publicly, about to fail. Or maybe you're all talk. Maybe you just wanted to look smart in front of your daughter. Lily was still staring at the car, still listening. Daddy, she said quietly, the crying is getting louder. Daniel looked at her, at the car, at the 6 mechanics who had failed, at the billionaire who would destroy his peaceful life out of spite if he walked away now, at the $100 bill still lying on the floor between them. I can fix it. Sophia smiled, that cruel smile again. Oh, really? I'll need a screwdriver and something to shield the tracker. Aluminum foil would work. Anything conductive. Aluminum foil? She laughed. You're going to fix a $15 million car with aluminum foil? It's not about what you use. It's about understanding the problem. This is insane. Probably. If you break anything, I'll sue you for every cent you'll ever earn. I'll take your house, your savings. Your daughter will grow up knowing her father destroyed their future because he couldn't keep his mouth shut. Lily flinched. Daniel felt rage surge through him, hot, familiar, the kind of anger he'd spent 4 years learning to control. Don't talk about my daughter. Don't threaten my daughter. You can threaten me, you can sue me, you can destroy me, but don't bring her into this. She's already in this. She's standing right here. Then let me send her inside while I work. No. Sophia's smile widened. She stays. She watches. She sees her father either succeed or fail in front of all these people. That's the deal. Daniel's hands were trembling, not from fear, from the effort of keeping himself still. Sarah's voice in his head, clear as if she were standing next to him instead of 6 years in the ground. You always had a temper, Marcus. You just hid it well. Promise me you'll never let it out around Lily. Promise me she'll never see that side of you. He'd promised. 8 years ago, holding Sarah's hand in the delivery room while their daughter came into a world that would kill her mother 2 years later. Fine. She stays. Sophia turned to one of her assistants hovering near the door. Get him what he needs. Screwdriver, aluminum foil, whatever this lunatic wants. 2 minutes later, Daniel had a Phillips head screwdriver in his hand and a roll of kitchen foil in his pocket. He walked toward the Ferrari. The mechanics moved aside. Hans was watching with something like fascination. Peterson was muttering prayers under his breath. Daniel stopped beside the car. He didn't touch it yet, just listened. Emma came to stand next to him. The crying is in the front, Daddy, behind the pretty part, the dashboard. I know, sweetheart. He opened the driver's door. The leather interior was perfect, preserved for 60 years, worth more than his cottage. He slid into the seat carefully. Under the dashboard on the left side, he found the GPS tracker. Modern, sleek, completely out of place in this vintage masterpiece. He didn't remove it. Couldn't. It was wired into the car's electrical system, and pulling it out might cause more damage. But he didn't need to remove it. He pulled out the aluminum foil, tore off a sheet, wrapped it carefully around the tracker. Complete coverage. A makeshift Faraday cage. Simple. Elegant. Something any first-year engineering student would understand. But none of the experts had thought of it because they were looking at data, at screens, at diagnostics. They weren't listening to the car. Done. Sophia raised an eyebrow. That's it? Aluminum foil? That's it. You're joking. Try the ignition. She stared at him. The mockery was still there, but it was wavering. She was scared, he realized. Scared that it wouldn't work. Scared that it would. Scared of what it meant either way. Fine. She walked to the car. Move. Daniel stepped out. Lily reached for his hand. Sophia slid into the driver's seat. Her hands were shaking. Just slightly. Just enough for Daniel to notice. She reached for the key. Wait. She froze. What? When it starts, and it will start, the engine's going to need a moment to stabilize. Don't rev it immediately. Let it breathe. Let it breathe. She laughed bitterly. You and your daughter talking about cars like they're alive. They are alive. Every machine is. They have rhythms, patterns, personalities. You just have to pay attention. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Then prove me wrong. Turn the key. Thunder rolled overhead. Closer now. The storm was directly above them. Sophia turned the key. For one agonizing second, nothing happened. Then the engine roared to life. Pure, powerful, perfect. 60 years old and running like the day it left the factory. At that exact moment, thunder cracked so loud the windows rattled. The lights flickered. Everyone in the garage felt it in their chests. Lily laughed. The car's happy now, Daddy. Can you hear it? It's singing. Sophia sat frozen in the driver's seat. Her hands gripped the steering wheel like she was afraid she'd fall if she let go. The mechanics erupted, shouting, checking instruments, running diagnostics. Hans was staring at his tablet in disbelief. The interference pattern is gone. Completely eliminated. How did he? Sophia stepped out of the car. She walked toward Daniel slowly. Her heels clicked that countdown rhythm again. She stopped in front of him. Who are you? Nobody, ma'am. Just the groundskeeper. Don't lie to me. Not now. Not after that. Her voice was different. The cruelty was still there, but it was cracked now, broken open by something she didn't understand. Who are you really? Daniel looked at his daughter, at the Ferrari purring contentedly behind them, at the $100 bill still lying on the floor. I'm Lily's father. That's all that matters. He took Lily's hand and started walking toward the exit. Wait! Sophia's voice stopped him. I said I'd marry you if you started it. Did you forget? Daniel turned back. You were mocking me, ma'am. I was, but I said it, and I'm a woman of my word. I don't want your hand in marriage. I just want to go home. What do you want? He thought about it, really thought. Pick up the money. What? The $100 bill. You threw it at me. You wanted me to pick it up. He met her eyes. Now I want you to pick it up. The mechanics were watching. Everyone was watching. Sophia Hayes, billionaire heiress, CEO of a global technology empire, daughter of a legend, stood there in her designer clothes and her expensive perfume, being asked to pick up money from the floor by a man in dirty work clothes. Her face flushed, her jaw tightened, but she bent down, slowly, carefully, and picked up the bill. She straightened up, the money in her hand, looking at Daniel with an expression he couldn't read. There, happy? Yes, ma'am. Now will you tell me who you are? Good night, ma'am. He walked out of the garage with his daughter, leaving behind a running Ferrari, 6 stunned mechanics, and a billionaire holding $100 bill like she'd never seen money before in her life. The storm raged around them as they walked back to the cottage, but Lily was smiling. Daddy? Yes, sweetheart? The car said thank you. Marcus smiled despite himself. Did it? Yes. And the lady? Lily paused, thinking. The lady's heart is broken, Daddy. Not like the car. Broken different. She looked up at him with Sarah's eyes. Can you fix that too? Daniel didn't answer, but as they walked through the rain, he thought about Sophia's eyes in that last moment. The fear beneath the cruelty. The loneliness beneath the power. He thought about Sarah, who used to say that the angriest people were usually the saddest. He thought about what it cost to be invisible for 4 years, and whether some things were worth being seen for. Lightning flashed overhead. For just a moment the whole estate was illuminated. The mansion, the gardens, the cottage where they lived, and somewhere behind them, a garage where a woman stood alone, holding a $100 bill, listening to an engine run perfectly, for the first time in weeks. Thunder rolled across the sky. This time it sounded almost like an answer. The next morning came with the weight of consequence. Daniel had barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Sophia bending down to pick up that $100 bill. The look on her face, the crack in her armor, and Lily's words echoing in the dark. The lady's heart is broken, Daddy. He made breakfast the way he always did, scrambled eggs, toast with strawberry jam, orange juice in the plastic cup with the faded Disney princesses that Lily refused to give up, even though she was 8 now. Sarah had bought that cup. It was one of the few things they still had from before. Daddy, you're burning the eggs! Daniel snapped back to attention. Smoke rose from the pan. He moved it off the burner and scraped the charred mess onto a plate. Sorry, sweetheart. Daddy's tired. Because of last night. Yeah, because of last night. Lily climbed onto her chair at the small kitchen table. Her feet didn't quite reach the floor. She swung them back and forth while she waited. The lady called. Daniel froze. What? The phone rang while you were in the shower. I answered it. The lady from last night. She wants to see you. Emma, you know you're not supposed to answer the phone when I'm not here. But it kept ringing and ringing, and the lady sounded sad. Daniel rubbed his face with both hands. Of course, Sophia had called. Of course, she couldn't just let it go. What did she say exactly? She said, please tell your father I need to speak with him. She said, please, 3 times, Daddy. I counted. Sophia Hayes saying please 3 times. The world was ending. Did she say anything else? She asked my name. I told her. She said Lily is a pretty name. Then she asked if I really heard the car crying or if I was just pretending. Daniel served the slightly burned eggs onto Lily's plate. She didn't complain. She never complained. What did you tell her? I said I wasn't pretending. I said machines talk all the time, but most people don't listen. Lily picked up her fork. She got quiet for a long time. Then she said please again and hung up. Daniel sat down across from his daughter. He watched her eat burned eggs without a word of protest and felt his chest tighten. She was so much like Sarah. Patient, understanding, seeing the best in everyone even when they didn't deserve it. Am I in trouble, Daddy? No, sweetheart, you're not in trouble. Are you in trouble? I don't know. Maybe. Because you fixed the car. Because I fixed the car when I should have stayed invisible. Lily tilted her head the same way she did when she was listening to machines. Why do you want to be invisible, Daddy? Invisible people are lonely. Daniel didn't have an answer for that. After breakfast, He walked Lily to the estate's back gate, where the school bus picked her up. He watched until the yellow bus disappeared around the curve of the long driveway. Then he stood there for another minute, just breathing, just being. 4 years. 4 years of careful invisibility, of being nobody, of cleaning up after people who never looked at him twice. And in one night, he'd thrown it all away. "Mr. Carter!" He turned. Thomas, Sophia's assistant, was walking toward him. The young man always looked like he was 3 seconds away from a nervous breakdown. Right now, he looked like he was down to 2. "Miss Hayes would like to see you immediately." "I have work to do." "Miss Hayes said to tell you that your work can wait. She also said to tell you that she's not asking." Daniel looked at Thomas. The young man was sweating despite the cool morning air. "What happens if I say no?" Thomas swallowed. "Please don't say no, Mr. Carter. I really need this job." Daniel sighed. "Lead the way." The walk to the main house took 10 minutes. Daniel had been inside exactly twice in 4 years. Once for his initial job interview, once to fix a burst pipe in the basement when the regular plumber couldn't come. Both times he'd kept his head down and left as quickly as possible. Now Thomas led him through the front entrance, up a sweeping staircase, down a hallway lined with paintings that probably cost more than his lifetime earnings, and finally to a set of double doors. Thomas knocked. "Miss Hayes? Mr. Carter is here." "Send him in." Thomas opened the door and practically pushed Daniel through before fleeing like his life depended on it. Sophia's office was enormous. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the estate grounds. A massive desk dominated the center of the room, and behind that desk sat Sophia Hayes, looking like she hadn't slept any better than Daniel had. She was holding a file. "Sit down, Mr. Carter." "I'd rather stand." "I said sit down." "And I said I'd rather stand." Their eyes locked. Neither blinked. Finally, Sophia smiled. It wasn't the cruel smile from last night. This one was almost impressed. "Fine. Stand. I don't care." She opened the file. Daniel James Carter, born in Detroit. Father was a factory worker. Mother was a nurse. Graduated high school at 16. Full scholarship to MIT. Graduated top of your class in mechanical engineering at 22. Daniel said nothing. Recruited by Northfield Defense Systems. Worked on classified military projects for 6 years. Published 3 papers on acoustic engineering that are still considered groundbreaking. One of your professors called you the most intuitive mechanical mind of his generation. She looked up from the file. You were going to change the world, Mr. Carter. You were on track to become one of the most important engineers in the country. And then nothing. You disappeared. Fell off the face of the earth. Resurfaced 4 years later, applying for a job as a groundskeeper at my estate. She closed the file. Why? Daniel's jaw tightened. That's not your business. I'm making it my business. You work for me. That makes your past my business. I trim your hedges and mow your lawn. That doesn't give you the right to dig through my life. I disagree. Sophia stood up and walked around the desk. Last night you embarrassed 6 of the best mechanics in the world. You fixed a problem that stumped experts with a screwdriver and aluminum foil. You made me pick money up off the floor in front of my own staff. She stopped in front of him. I need to know who you are, really. Why? Because I don't like mysteries. And because I'm considering offering you a job. Daniel laughed. He couldn't help it. Something funny? You threatened to destroy my life last night. You mocked my daughter. You threw money at my feet like I was a beggar, and now you want to offer me a job? I was having a bad night. So was I. But I didn't treat you like dirt. Sophia's expression flickered. For just a moment, Daniel saw something behind her eyes. Not anger, not arrogance. Something raw, wounded. Then it was gone. I'm offering you a position as senior mechanical consultant. You'd work with my engineering teams. Salary of $300,000 to start. Full benefits. Flexible hours so you can still be there for your daughter. No. You haven't even thought about it. I don't need to think about it. The answer is no. Mr. Carter, my wife died. The words came out before he could stop them. Hard, flat, like stones dropping into still water. Sophia went quiet. Her name was Sarah. She was an ER nurse. Worked nights so I could work days, and someone would always be home with Lily. Except I was never home. I was always traveling, always in some lab or some classified facility working on projects I couldn't tell her about. Daniel paused. His throat was tight. I missed birthdays, anniversaries. I missed Lily's first steps. I missed her first words. He looked at Sophia. Sarah called me one night. Lily had a fever, 104. Sarah was scared. She wanted me to come home. I said I couldn't. I was in Nevada working on something urgent. I told her to take Lily to the hospital and I'd be home as soon as I could. Mr. Carter, you don't have to. 3 days later, I still wasn't home. The project ran long. There were complications. I kept telling Sarah, one more day, one more day. She stopped believing me, stopped asking. Just handled everything herself. His hands were shaking now. She was driving Lily to a follow-up appointment. A drunk driver ran a red light, hit them on the passenger side. Lily was in a car seat. She survived. Sarah didn't. The office was silent. I got the call while I was in a conference room presenting findings to a room full of generals. My phone buzzed. I ignored it. It buzzed again. I ignored it again. The third time, my supervisor answered it for me, annoyed that I was being interrupted. Daniel looked at Sophia. Her face had gone pale. He listened for about 5 seconds. Then he handed me the phone and said, "You need to take this." The last thing Sarah said to me was, "I need you to come home." And I said, "I can't." Those were the last words I ever said to my wife. I can't. Silence stretched between them like wire pulled too tight. So no, Miss Hayes, I don't want your job. I don't want your money. I don't want to go back to that world. I spent 4 years building a life where I can be there for my daughter, where she knows that when she needs me, I'll be there. Not in a lab, not in a meeting. There. That's worth more than any salary. Sophia sat down heavily in the chair behind her desk. She looked diminished somehow, smaller than she had seemed last night. I'm sorry. About your wife. About everything. Don't be sorry. Just let me go back to my job. Mr. Carter, Daniel. Sophia looked up. If we're going to have conversations like this, you might as well use my name. She nodded. Daniel. I know what it's like to lose someone. He waited. My father, 3 years ago, heart attack. He was in his office working late like he always did, like he'd done for 40 years. I was in Singapore closing a deal. My assistant called, said I needed to come home. I said I couldn't. The deal was too important. Her voice cracked slightly. He died alone in his office, surrounded by the empire he built, but completely alone. By the time I got there, they'd already taken him away. I never got to say goodbye. Daniel understood then. The cruelty, the armor, the desperate need to control everything. She was him before Sarah died, before he learned what really mattered. I'm sorry. He meant it. Sophia looked up. Her eyes were wet, but she wasn't crying. He got the sense she hadn't cried in a very long time. I don't know how to be different. I've been this way for so long. Hard, cold. My father raised me to be this way. He said the world would eat me alive if I showed weakness. He said emotions were a liability. He was wrong. Was he? Look where being soft got you. Mowing lawns for people like me. And look where being hard got you. Alone in a mansion threatening groundskeepers because a car wouldn't start. She flinched, but she didn't look away. Your daughter, Lily. She really hears things, doesn't she? In machines? Yes. How is that possible? I don't know. She's always been that way.
Ever since she was little, she told our neighbor his lawnmower was tired 2 days before it broke down. She knew our car needed an oil change before the warning light came on. She just listens, and machines tell her things. That's extraordinary. That's Lily. Sophia was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that surprised him. She said something on the phone this morning. She said machines talk all the time, but most people don't listen. Is that something you taught her? No, that's something she taught me. Another silence. This one felt different, less hostile, more curious. I meant what I said last night, about the marriage thing. I know I was mocking you, but I always keep my word. If you ever want to hold me to it, I don't. Of course you don't. She laughed bitterly. No one would. Who'd want to marry a woman like me? That's not why. Then why? Daniel considered his words carefully. Because you don't need a husband. You need a friend. You need someone to remind you that success isn't the same as happiness. You need someone to teach you what your father never did, that showing weakness isn't the same as being weak. And you think you're that person? No. I think you need to find that person for yourself. But I'll be here if you need help along the way. Sophia stared at him for a long moment. Then she did something he didn't expect. She smiled. A real smile. Small and uncertain, like she'd forgotten how. You're a strange man, Daniel Carter. I've been called worse. I'm sure you have. She stood up. Fine. Keep your groundskeeper job. Keep your invisibility. But I'm giving you a raise. I'm not asking. Consider it hazard pay for putting up with me last night. She extended her hand. And Daniel, thank you for fixing the car. And for this. He shook her hand. Her grip was firm but not aggressive, different from last night. You're welcome, Miss Hayes. Sophia. He almost smiled. Sophia. Then he turned to leave.
Daniel. He stopped at the door. Your daughter. She said my heart was broken. Did she tell you that? Yes. Does she know how to fix it? Daniel looked back at her. The billionaire heiress, the ice queen, the woman who had everything except the one thing that mattered. She might, but you'd have to ask her yourself. Lily's good at broken things. She gets that from her mother. He walked out, leaving Sophia alone in her enormous office with her expensive paintings and her father's empire and the file that told her everything about Daniel Carter's past, but nothing about who he really was. 3 weeks passed. Daniel went back to being invisible. He trimmed hedges, mowed lawns, maintained the estate grounds the way he always had. Lily went to school, did her homework, helped him plant tomatoes in their small garden. Life returned to normal. Except it didn't. Because now, sometimes when Daniel was working near the main house, he'd look up and see Sophia watching him from her office window. She never waved, never acknowledged him, just watched. And sometimes when he was walking Lily to the bus stop in the morning, they'd find small gifts waiting at their cottage door. Books for Lily, coffee for Daniel, nothing extravagant, just thoughtful. The lady is trying to say sorry.
Lily examined a new book about how airplanes work. She doesn't know how to use words for it, so she uses things. How do you know that? Because that's what you did with Mommy when you forgot her birthday that one time. You bought her flowers every day for a week, remember? She said you were allergic to apologizing, but not to roses. Daniel remembered. He remembered everything about Sarah. Should I say thank you to the lady? That would be nice, sweetheart. Will you come with me? I don't think that's a good idea.
Why not? Because being near Sophia Hayes made him feel things he'd spent 4 years trying not to feel. Because she reminded him of who he used to be. Because every time he looked at her, he saw someone who was exactly where he'd been before the accident. Successful, powerful, and completely missing the point. Because Daddy has work to do. Lily gave him that look. The one that said she knew he wasn't telling the whole truth, but was too polite to call him on it. Okay, Daddy. She wrote a thank you note herself, drew a picture of the Ferrari with a smiley face, asked Thomas, the assistant, to deliver it. Thomas reported back that Miss Hayes had stared at the drawing for 5 full minutes without saying a word. Then she'd had it framed and put on her desk. Daniel didn't know what to do with that information. Then, on a Tuesday night, 3 weeks after the garage incident, his phone rang. It was Sophia. I need your help. Her voice was tight, controlled, but underneath it, he heard something else. Panic. What's wrong? Not on the phone. Can you come to the office? My office at headquarters downtown. It's 9 at night. I have Lily. Bring her, please, Daniel. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. He heard it then. The crack in her voice. The same crack he'd heard when she talked about her father. I'll be there in an hour. He woke Lily, bundled her into the car, and drove through the dark streets toward the glass tower that housed Hayes Technologies. Lily fell asleep in the back seat, clutching her airplane book. Daniel looked at her in the rearview mirror. I hope I know what I'm doing, sweetheart. I really hope I know what I'm doing. But deep down, he already knew the truth. He was done being invisible. The security guard at the front desk looked at Daniel like he'd lost his mind. Sir, I can't let you up without authorization. It's after hours. Call Sophia Hayes. She's expecting me. Miss Hayes doesn't take calls from... The guard stopped mid-sentence as his phone buzzed. He answered it, listened, and his face went pale. Yes, ma'am. Right away, ma'am. He hung up and looked at Daniel with new eyes. 42nd floor. She said to come straight up. Daniel carried Lily, still sleeping, through the lobby and into the elevator. The ride up felt endless. His daughter's head rested against his shoulder, her breathing soft and steady. What was he doing here? 4 years of careful invisibility, 4 years of staying small, staying safe, staying invisible. And now he was walking into the heart of everything he'd run away from. The elevator doors opened. The executive floor was chaos. People rushed past him without looking. Engineers in rumpled shirts, executives with phones pressed to their ears, assistants carrying armfuls of documents. Everyone looked exhausted. Everyone looked scared. Daniel. Sophia appeared from a conference room. She looked worse than anyone, dark circles under her eyes. Her usually perfect hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Her expensive blouse wrinkled like she'd been wearing it for days. What's happening? Not here. Conference room. Bring Lily. He followed her down the hall. The conference room was packed with people. At least 15 engineers, plus several executives Daniel didn't recognize. Computer screens covered every surface, all showing different data feeds, graphs, diagnostic readouts. Sophia pointed to a leather couch in the corner. She can sleep there. Daniel laid Lily down gently, covering her with his jacket. She stirred slightly, but didn't wake. Now tell me what's going on. Sophia led him to the main display. A 3-dimensional model of a satellite array rotated slowly on the screen.
The Aurora Project, our flagship initiative. 12 satellites designed to provide global broadband internet access to underserved communities. 2 years of development, $4 billion in investment.
We launched them 6 months ago. I remember reading about it. The press called it revolutionary. It was supposed to be. She paused. It was supposed to be my father's legacy. He started this project before he died. He believed technology should serve everyone, not just people who could afford it. Free internet for schools in Appalachia. Telemedicine for rural Mississippi. Emergency communications for disaster zones. What went wrong? 3 of the satellites are failing. They spin up normally, reach optimal operational capacity, and then crash. Complete system failure. No warning, no explanation. Have your engineers diagnosed the problem? They've been working for 72 hours straight, nothing. The satellites that work and the satellites that fail are identical. Same components, same software, same everything. There's no reason for the failures. One of the engineers, a gray-haired man with wire-rimmed glasses, stepped forward. We've run every diagnostic protocol. We've checked every line of code. We've analyzed every component specification. The failures are impossible, but they're happening. Daniel said slowly, "Yes, they're happening. And if we can't fix them in the next 48 hours, we lose the entire project." Sophia took over. The consortium that funded Aurora, they're threatening to pull out. They've already called emergency meetings. If we can't prove the satellites are viable, they'll cancel the contracts and sue us for breach of agreement. The lawsuits alone would bankrupt the company. What about the board? The board is meeting tomorrow morning. They're going to vote on removing me as CEO. Her jaw tightened. They've been looking for an excuse ever since my father died. This is exactly what they wanted. Daniel studied the satellite schematic rotating on the screen. Why did you call me? Because you fixed a car that stumped 6 world-class mechanics in 30 seconds. Because you heard something no one else could hear. Because I'm desperate, Daniel. I'm completely desperate. He looked at her. The Ice Queen was gone. In her place was a woman fighting for everything she had left. Her company, her father's legacy, her own sense of worth. I'm a groundskeeper. No, you're an engineer who chose to become a groundskeeper. There's a difference. I haven't done this kind of work in 4 years. I don't care. I'll take anyone who can help. Even if you just look at the data and tell me there's nothing to find, at least I'll know I tried everything. Daniel looked at Lily sleeping peacefully on the couch. He thought about Sarah, about the choices that had led him here. I need 3 things. Sophia straightened. Name them. First, I need audio recordings of the satellites when they fail. Not processed data, raw audio of the transmissions. We have that. Peterson, pull the audio files. The gray-haired engineer nodded and started typing. Second, I need everyone to leave me alone while I work. No interruptions, no questions, no looking over my shoulder. Done. Third, he glanced at Lily again. When she wakes up, she stays with me. She's part of this. Sophia frowned. Your daughter? Daniel, this is highly technical work. She stays with me or I walk out right now. Their eyes met. After a moment, Sophia nodded. Fine, she stays, whatever you need. Peterson handed Daniel a pair of headphones and pointed to a workstation. The audio files are loaded, all 12 satellites. The 3 that failed are marked in red. Daniel sat down. He looked at the files on the screen, waveforms, timestamps, frequency analyses. 4 years of rust. 4 years of pretending this part of his brain didn't exist. He put on the headphones, and he listened. The first satellite sounded healthy, a steady pulse of data transmission. Clean, regular, like a heartbeat. The second satellite, same thing, healthy, strong. The third satellite, the first failure. Daniel closed his eyes and let the sound wash over him. At first, nothing stood out. The same steady pulse, the same regular pattern. But then, there. So faint he almost missed it. A tremor in the transmission. Not mechanical failure. Something else. Something external.
He pulled up the audio from the other failed satellites. Same tremor, same frequency, same timing. The satellites weren't failing because something was wrong with them. They were failing because something was happening to them. Peterson hurried over. Did you find something? These 3 satellites, where are they positioned? Peterson pulled up a map. Here, here, and here. They're spread across the Pacific sector. What about the satellites that are working? Atlantic, Indian Ocean, and the remaining Pacific positions. Daniel studied the map. The 3 failed satellites formed a loose triangle in the Pacific. Something about the positioning nagged at him.
Is there anything different about these locations? Geologically, atmospherically? Not that we know of. The orbital paths were calculated specifically to avoid interference patterns. What about ocean currents? Peterson frowned. Ocean currents? These are satellites. They're in orbit. Yes, but they're monitoring the surface, collecting data. If there's something happening in the water below them... Daddy! Daniel turned. Lily was sitting up on the couch, rubbing her eyes. Hey, sweetheart. Go back to sleep. I can't. The machines are too loud. Everyone in the room stopped what they were doing. What machines, Lily? She pointed at the screen showing the satellite array. Those. They're all talking at once, but 3 of them are scared. Peterson stepped forward. Young lady, those satellites aren't making any sound. They're in space. Not that kind of sound. Lily stood up and walked over to her father. The inside sound. Like the car. Remember, Daddy? The car had 2 heartbeats fighting. These 3 have something like that. Something's pushing them. Daniel pulled Lily onto his lap. Show me what you mean, sweetheart. Point to the ones that are scared. Without hesitation, Lily pointed to the 3 failed satellites. Peterson's face went pale. That's impossible. How could she know which ones failed? Daniel ignored him. Lily, what's pushing them? I don't know. It's big, though. Really big. And it moves in circles. Moves in circles. Daniel's mind raced. Ocean currents, circular motion, electromagnetic interference. Pull up the oceanic data for this region. Everything you have. Thermal imaging, current mapping, atmospheric readings. Peterson typed furiously. A new display appeared, a complex visualization of Pacific Ocean conditions. There, Daniel pointed. What's that? A massive circular pattern dominated the center of the screen, a slow-moving vortex of thermal activity. That's the Pacific warm pool. It's a natural phenomenon. Warm water circulation pattern. Been there for thousands of years. Has it changed recently? Changed how? Size, intensity, position. Peterson checked the historical data. His face changed. Actually, yes. The pool has been intensifying over the past 6 months. Thermal output has increased by nearly 15%. 6 months, the exact time frame of the satellite failures. The warm pool is generating electromagnetic interference. As it intensifies, it's creating a disturbance pattern that's affecting the satellites directly above it. That's impossible. The satellites are designed to handle electromagnetic variations. They're designed to handle normal variations. This is abnormal. The pool is supercharging the upper atmosphere in that region. Your satellites are flying through an electromagnetic storm every time they pass over it. Peterson pulled up more data. His hands were shaking. Oh my God. The interference pattern. It matches the failure timing exactly. Every crash happened during a pass over the warm pool. Can you confirm? More typing. More data. And then Peterson sat back in his chair looking like he'd seen a ghost. He's right. The correlation is perfect. The satellites are failing because of the warm pool. The room erupted. Engineers shouting questions, executives demanding explanations, Sophia pushing through the crowd to reach Daniel. Can you fix it? It's not about fixing the satellites. They're fine. You need to recalibrate their shielding protocols to handle the increased electromagnetic load. How? Add a frequency filter to the navigation software. It's the same principle as the Ferrari. You're dealing with interference patterns that are technically within normal parameters, but practically disruptive. Adjust the sensitivity thresholds by about 0.3%,
and the satellites should be able to fly through the interference without crashing. Peterson was already typing. I can have a software patch ready in 2 hours. Do it, Sophia said. There's something else, Daniel added. The warm pool is going to keep intensifying. Climate change, ocean temperature rise. This isn't a one-time problem. You should build adaptive shielding into the next generation of satellites. Sophia stared at him. How do you know all this? I used to design propulsion systems for military satellites. Electromagnetic interference was always our biggest challenge. This is just bigger. Daddy, Lily tugged his sleeve. The scared ones are calming down. Daniel looked at the screen. The waveforms from the 3 failed satellites were stabilizing, not because of any change to the satellites themselves, but because Lily was watching them. He didn't understand it. He never had. But somehow his daughter's attention made machines behave better, like they knew someone was listening. Peterson. Sophia's voice cut through the chaos. How long until we can test the patch? 4 hours for upload and verification. Do it. Everyone else, take a break. Eat something. Sleep if you can. We reconvene at 6 a.m. The room slowly emptied. Engineers stumbled toward the break room. Executives made phone calls. Within minutes, only Daniel, Lily, and Sophia remained. Thank you, Sophia said quietly. Don't thank me yet. The patch might not work. It'll work. I know it will. She looked at Lily, who was tracing her finger along the satellite display. She's remarkable. She's 8. She's remarkable and she's 8. Those aren't mutually exclusive. Sophia sat down heavily in one of the conference chairs. How did you know about the warm pool? I didn't. I just listened. The satellites were telling me something was pushing them. Lily heard it first. That's not engineering, that's intuition, pattern recognition. My father was a factory worker. He could walk into any plant in Detroit and tell you which machines were about to fail just by listening. He didn't have a degree. He didn't have fancy equipment. He just paid attention, and he taught you. He taught me that machines talk. You just have to listen. Sophia was quiet for a moment. My father never taught me anything like that. He taught me how to read balance sheets, how to negotiate contracts, how to fire people without flinching. He taught me that emotions were weakness and compassion was liability. He was wrong. Was he? Look at me, Daniel. I'm 38 years old. I run a multi-billion-dollar company. I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. And I'm sitting here at 3 a.m, terrified that everything I've built is about to collapse. And the only person I could think to call was my groundskeeper. Former groundskeeper. She smiled faintly. Is that your way of accepting the job I offered? No. That's my way of saying I don't know what I am anymore. Lily climbed into Daniel's lap and yawned. Daddy, I'm tired. I know, sweetheart. We'll go home soon. Can Miss Sophia come with us? Both adults went silent. Lily looked up at her father with Sarah's dark eyes. She's lonely, Daddy. Her house is too big and too quiet. She should come to our house. Our house is small, but it has good sounds. Sophia looked away. Daniel saw her swallow hard. Miss Sophia has work to do, sweetheart. But the scared machines are sleeping now, so everyone should rest. That's what you always tell me when I'm worried about something. You say worrying doesn't fix anything. Only rest and trying again does. She's got you there, Sophia said quietly. Lily, please. Daddy! Lily's voice was insistent now. She can have my bed. I'll sleep on the couch. And tomorrow we can show her the tomato garden. Mommy always said tomatoes make everything better. The mention of Sarah hit Daniel like a punch to the chest. He saw Sophia react too, a flicker of something across her face. Your wife said that? Mommy said lots of things. She said being kind costs nothing, but is worth everything. She said the best people are the ones who remember to be gentle, even when they're scared. Lily paused. She said Daddy needed to stop trying to save the world and start trying to save himself.
Lily, that's enough.
But Daddy, I said enough. Emma went quiet. She buried her face against his shoulder, and Daniel felt her breath hitch. Not quite crying, but close. He'd snapped at her. He never snapped at her. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I didn't mean to raise my voice. I just wanted to help. Her whisper was so small. I know you did. Sophia stood up slowly. She's right, Daniel. About all of it. I am lonely. My house is too big and too quiet.
And I can't remember the last time anyone invited me anywhere just because they wanted my company, not my money or my connections. Sophia, but I can't come to your house tonight. Not because I don't want to, because I need to be here when the patch uploads. I need to see this through. She walked over to where Daniel sat with Lily in his lap. She knelt down so she was eye level with the little girl. Lily, can I tell you something? Lily peeked out from her father's shoulder. Okay. You're the bravest person I've ever met. You walked into a room full of scared adults and told them exactly what was wrong, even though you're only 8 years old. That takes courage. Daddy says courage is just being scared and doing the thing anyway. Your daddy is very smart. I know, but he's also sad sometimes. He misses Mommy. Sophia glanced up at Daniel. I know he does. Do you miss someone too, Miss Sophia? Yes. I miss my father every day. Does it get better? Sophia's eyes glistened. I don't know, sweetheart. I'll let you know when I find out. She stood up and stepped back. You should go home. Get some sleep. I'll call you when the patch is tested. You're sure you don't need me to stay? I'm sure. You've done enough. More than enough. She paused. More than anyone has ever done for me. Daniel nodded. He started toward the door with Lily in his arms. Daniel. He stopped. That day in the garage, when I threw money at your feet, I've done that before. To other people. People who probably deserved it even less than you did. I thought that's just how power worked. You take what you want, and you don't apologize. And now? Now I think maybe there's a different kind of power. The kind your daughter has. The kind that makes people want to follow you, not because they're scared of you, but because they trust you. That's not power. That's love. Sophia smiled sadly. Maybe that's what I've been missing all along. Lily lifted her head from Daniel's shoulder. Miss Sophia. Yes, sweetheart? The machines like you. They're scared because you're scared, but they want to help. You just have to let them. Sophia didn't respond. She just stood there in the middle of her empty conference room, surrounded by billions of dollars worth of technology and all the loneliness money could buy. Daniel carried Lily to the elevator. As the doors closed, Lily waved goodbye, and for just a moment, Marcus saw Sophia wave back. A small, hesitant gesture, like she wasn't sure she remembered how. The drive home was quiet. Lily fell asleep again within minutes. Daniel kept his eyes on the road, but his mind was somewhere else entirely. He thought about Sarah, about the life they'd planned together, about all the ways he'd failed her without even realizing it. He thought about Sophia, about the woman she was versus the woman she could become. He thought about what it meant to be visible again, to use his gifts, to help people, to maybe finally start forgiving himself. His phone buzzed at 5:47 a.m. Sophia's name on the screen. The patch worked. All 12 satellites are operational. The consortium is staying. The board meeting is canceled. Her voice was thick with exhaustion, but bright with relief. That's good news. It's better than good news. It's a miracle. You saved my company, Daniel. You and your daughter.
We just listened. That's more than anyone else did. She paused. The board wants to know who consulted on the fix. They want to meet you, offer you a position. I'm not interested. I know. I told them that. I told them you're a private consultant who prefers to work behind the scenes. Thank you. But Daniel, there's something else. Something I didn't want to say in front of everyone last night. What is it? My father kept files. Private files. Research he was working on before he died. I found them last month when I was cleaning out his office.
What kind of research? A new kind of propulsion system, something revolutionary. He believed it could change space travel forever. But he died before he could finish it, and none of my engineers can make sense of his notes. Daniel's heart rate increased. Why are you telling me this? Because I think you might be the only person who can. The only person who thinks the way he did. Another pause. I'm not offering you a job, Daniel. I'm asking for help. The same way I asked last night. Just look at the files. Tell me if there's anything there. If not, I'll never mention it again. Daniel thought about it, about the life he'd built, the invisibility he'd cultivated, the peace he'd found. Then he thought about Lily asking if he could fix Sophia's broken heart, about Sarah saying he needed to stop trying to save the world and start trying to save himself, about what it meant to really, truly listen, not just to machines, but to the people around him. Send me the files. Really? Really. But Sophia...
Yes?
This doesn't change anything. I'm still a groundskeeper. I'm still Lily's father first. Nothing else comes before that. I wouldn't want it any other way. She hung up. Daniel sat in the darkness of his small cottage, listening to his daughter breathe in the next room. For the first time in 4 years, he felt like himself again. Not the version of himself that had hidden from the world, the version that knew how to listen, how to help, how to be more than invisible. The files arrived at 7 a.m. Daniel was making coffee when his laptop chimed. He opened the email from Sophia and stared at the attachments. 47 documents. Hundreds of pages of research notes, diagrams, equations, and handwritten marginalia. Edward Hayes had been a brilliant man. That much was clear from the first page. But he'd also been obsessive, scattered. His notes jumped from concept to concept with no clear structure, as if his mind moved too fast for his hands to keep up. Daniel recognized the pattern. He'd been the same way once. Lily wandered into the kitchen, still in her pajamas.
What's that, Daddy?
Work stuff, sweetheart.
I thought you didn't do work stuff anymore.
I didn't, but things change. She climbed onto the chair beside him and looked at the screen.
That's a lot of numbers.
It is.
What do they mean?
I don't know yet. I'm still figuring it out. Lily studied the equations for a moment. Then she pointed at a diagram near the bottom of the page.
That part looks wrong.
Daniel frowned. What do you mean? The circles, they're not balanced. See how this one is bigger than the others? It shouldn't be. They should all be the same. He looked closer. Lily was pointing at a thrust vectoring diagram, a complex representation of propulsion force distribution. And she was right. One of the vectors was miscalculated. The asymmetry would create instability in any real-world application. How did you see that? It just looks wrong, Daddy. Like when your shoelaces aren't the same length. It bothers me. Daniel stared at his daughter. 8 years old, no engineering training, and she'd spotted a flaw that Edward Hayes, one of the most celebrated minds in aerospace, had missed. You're something else, sweetheart.
I know,
she grinned.
Can I have pancakes?
He made pancakes. He walked her to the bus stop. He went back to the cottage and spent the next 4 hours buried in Edward Hayes's research. By noon, he understood what the old man had been trying to build. By 2, he understood why it hadn't worked. By 4, he had a solution. He called Sophia.
I need to see you. Her voice was cautious. Is something wrong with the files? No, something's right with them. Very right. But I need to explain in person. Come to the office. I'll clear my schedule. No, not the office. Somewhere private. Somewhere we can talk without being overheard. Sophia was silent for a moment. The estate. The old greenhouse behind the main house. No one goes there anymore. Can you be there in an hour? I'll be there. He picked Lily up from school and drove to the estate. The greenhouse was exactly as Sophia had described. Abandoned, overgrown, but somehow beautiful in its decay. Vines crept through broken glass panels. Rusted gardening tools lay scattered across workbenches. Sophia was waiting inside, wearing jeans and a simple white blouse. Daniel had never seen her in anything but business attire. She looked younger, more vulnerable. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for meeting me here. Lily immediately began exploring, examining old plants, rusted equipment, the patterns of light filtering through dirty glass. Your father was building a pulse detonation engine. Daniel pulled out his notes. A new kind of propulsion system that uses controlled explosions instead of continuous combustion. I know the basic concept. He talked about it constantly. The theory is sound, revolutionary even. If it worked, it would cut fuel consumption by 60% and increase thrust efficiency by a factor of 4. It would change space travel forever. But it didn't work. No, because he was trying to solve the wrong problem. Daniel spread his notes on an old workbench. The engine works, the mathematics are perfect. What he couldn't figure out was the control system, how to manage the detonation sequence precisely enough to prevent catastrophic failure. Can you figure it out? I already did. Sophia's eyes widened. What? The solution is acoustic regulation. You use sound waves to control the timing of the detonations. It's the same principle I used on your car and the satellites. Everything comes down to frequencies and harmonics. Your father was thinking mechanically. He needed to think musically. Musically? An engine is an orchestra. Every component plays a note. When the notes are in harmony, the engine runs perfectly. When they're out of sync, everything falls apart. Your father built a beautiful orchestra, but he forgot to hire a conductor. And you can be the conductor. I can design one, a software system that monitors the acoustic signature of the engine in real time and makes micro adjustments to keep everything in harmony. It's not complicated conceptually, but it requires someone who understands how to listen. Sophia sat down heavily on an old wooden bench. Do you know what you're saying? Do you understand what this would mean? I understand. You're talking about completing my father's life work, the project he died trying to finish. Yes. Why would you do that? You said you didn't want to go back to this world. You said you wanted to stay invisible. Daniel looked at Lily, who was humming to herself while examining a collection of old seed packets. Because my daughter asked me to fix your broken heart. And I think maybe this is part of how. Sophia's composure cracked. Her eyes filled with tears. The first time Daniel had ever seen her cry. I miss him so much. Every day I walk into his old office, and I still expect to see him sitting there. I still pick up the phone to call him before I remember. I know. No, you don't know. You had Sarah. You had someone who loved you unconditionally. My father loved his work. He loved his legacy. I was always second, always an extension of the company, not a person in my own right. That's not true. How would you know? Because I read his files. All of them, including the personal notes. Sophia looked up sharply. What personal notes? Hidden in the research, encrypted. He left messages for you. I don't think he expected anyone else to find them. Daniel handed her a printed page. Sophia's hands trembled as she read. Her father's handwriting, faded but unmistakable. Sophia, If you're reading this, it means I'm gone, and you're still fighting. I'm sorry I never told you this in person. I was never good with words that weren't equations. But you are my greatest achievement. Not the company, not the satellites, not even this engine I've spent years trying to perfect. You. You are everything I hoped you would become, and more. I was hard on you because the world would be harder. I pushed you because I knew you could take it. But I should have told you that I was proud of you. Every day. Every single day. I love you, sweetheart. I always have. Finish what I started. Not because the world needs it, but because I believe you're the only one who can. Dad. Sophia broke. She sobbed. Deep, racking sobs that shook her entire body. Years of grief. Years of doubt. Years of wondering if she'd ever been enough. All pouring out at once. Daniel didn't touch her. Didn't try to comfort her with words. He just sat beside her and let her cry. Lily came over, her small face serious. She climbed onto the bench next to Sophia and took her hand. It's okay to cry. Crying is how you let the hurt out, so it doesn't stay stuck inside. Sophia laughed through her tears. Did your daddy teach you that? No, my mommy did, before she went to heaven. Sophia pulled Lily into a hug. The little girl held on tight. For a long moment, no one spoke. When Sophia finally composed herself, her face was different, softer, more open. I'm sorry. I don't usually... Don't apologize. Everyone needs to fall apart sometimes. It's how we put ourselves back together stronger. Is that wisdom from your father? From Sarah, actually. She said it the night after Lily was born. I was terrified, convinced I'd be a terrible father. She looked at me and said, "You're going to mess up a lot, and then you're going to fix it. That's what parents do. That's what people do. Fall apart, put yourself together, keep going." She sounds amazing. She was. Sophia wiped her eyes. I want you to build the engine, not as a consultant, as a partner. Your name next to my father's on the patent. Full credit for the solution you created. I don't need credit. But you deserve it. You deserve to be seen, Daniel. You've spent 4 years hiding from the world, hiding from yourself. Don't you think it's time to stop? He looked at Lily. She was watching him with those knowing eyes. What do you think, sweetheart? Should Daddy stop hiding? Yes. Lily didn't hesitate. Mommy always said you were too important to be invisible. She said the world needed people who could listen, and you were the best listener she ever met. Sarah's words coming through their daughter like a message from beyond. Okay, I'll do it. But on my conditions. Sophia straightened. Name them. First, I work from home. I'm not coming into an office. I'm not traveling. Lily's life doesn't change. Agreed. Second, Lily stays involved. If she wants to help, she helps. She has a gift, Sophia. I don't understand it, but I won't ignore it. Agreed. Third, this project isn't about profit. It's about your father's dream. Technology that serves everyone. If we're going to build something that changes the world, it should change it for people who need it most. Sophia smiled. The real smile. The one that transformed her face. My father would have liked you very much. I hope so. They shook hands. This time it felt less like a business deal and more like a promise. The months that followed were the most intense of Daniel's life. He set up a workspace in the cottage. Computers, engineering software, audio equipment. Lily's drawings covered the walls, side by side, with complex schematics. Sophia came by twice a week. She'd arrive after work, still in her business clothes, and stay for hours. Sometimes they worked on the engine. Sometimes they just talked. She told him about her childhood, the pressure, the expectations, the father who showed love through demands instead of words. He told her about Sarah, the way she laughed, the way she could make any room feel like home, the way losing her had hollowed him out and left him wondering if he'd ever feel whole again. Lily observed everything with her quiet attentiveness. She'd make them tea. She'd point out when Daniel was getting frustrated and needed a break. She'd ask Sophia questions about her day with genuine curiosity. "Your daughter is teaching me how to be human again," Sophia said one evening. "She has that effect on people."
How does she do it? How does an 8-year-old have more emotional intelligence than adults 3 times her age? I used to wonder the same thing about Sarah. Some people are just wired differently. They feel things the rest of us miss. You feel things too, Daniel. I've seen you work. You listen to machines the way most people listen to music. That's not normal. That's extraordinary. Lily got it from somewhere. She got it from you and from her mother. She's the best of both of you. Daniel didn't know what to say to that. He'd spent so long thinking of himself as broken, as damaged, as a man who'd failed his wife and was barely holding on for his daughter's sake. The idea that he might have something valuable to offer felt foreign, dangerous. Sophia seemed to read his thoughts. You're allowed to be more than one thing, you know. You can be Lily's father and a brilliant engineer. You can grieve Sarah and build something new. Those aren't contradictions.
What if I fail? What if I build this engine and it doesn't work, and I've wasted months that I could have spent with Lily? Then we try again, and again, and again, until it works, or until we're certain it can't. That's how this works. That's a very optimistic outlook for someone who used to fire people without flinching. Sophia laughed. Maybe you're rubbing off on me. The breakthrough came on a Thursday night. Daniel had been working for 14 hours straight, testing variations of the acoustic control system in simulation. Nothing was working. The harmonics were too complex, the variables too numerous. Every time he thought he had it, something would destabilize. Lily had been asleep for hours. Sophia had gone home. The cottage was silent except for the hum of computers. Daniel was ready to give up. He pushed back from his desk, rubbing his eyes. Sarah's photo sat on the shelf beside him, the only picture he kept out. She was laughing in it, caught mid-motion, her hair flying around her face. I don't know how to do this. I thought I could, but I can't. I'm sorry. He sat there in the silence, waiting for an answer that wouldn't come. Then Lily's voice from the doorway. Daddy? He turned. She was standing there in her pajamas, her airplane book clutched against her chest. What are you doing up, sweetheart? The machines woke me. They're frustrated. What machines? Your computers. They're trying to tell you something, but you're not listening. Daniel looked at his screens. Lines of code, simulation results, failure after failure. I am listening, Lily. I've been listening for months. No, you're looking. That's different. She padded over to his desk and climbed into his lap. Close your eyes, Daddy. Please. He closed his eyes. Now listen. Not to the computers, to the quiet underneath. He tried. He really tried. But all he could hear was the hum of electronics, the creak of the old cottage, the distant sound of wind. I don't hear anything, sweetheart. That's because you're trying too hard. Mommy used to say that. She said you tried so hard to hear everything that you forgot to let the sounds come to you. Sarah had said that. Years ago, when they were first married, and he was struggling with a project that wouldn't come together. Just wait. The answer will come. It always does. Daniel sat there with his eyes closed and his daughter in his lap. He stopped trying to solve the problem. He stopped analyzing. He stopped thinking. He just listened. And then, so faintly he almost missed it, he heard it. Not a sound, not exactly, more like a pattern,
a rhythm hidden in the noise of his own equipment. His heartbeat, Lily's breathing, the oscillation of the computer fans, the subtle vibration of the cottage settling. Everything was connected. Everything was part of the same system. His eyes snapped open. Oh my God.
What is it, Daddy?
I've been designing the control system to regulate the engine from outside, like a conductor standing in front of an orchestra. But that's wrong. The conductor should be inside the engine, part of the system, responding to the music as it's being played. Lily smiled. The engine needs to listen to itself. Exactly. He started typing. The code poured out of him faster than he could think. Lily watched, her head resting against his shoulder. By dawn, he had a working model. By noon, the simulations were running clean. By evening, he called Sophia. It works. What? The control system. I figured it out. Lily figured it out. It works. Sophia was silent for so long he thought the call had dropped. Are you sure? I'm sure. We need to build a prototype, a physical test. But the math is solid. The simulations are perfect. Sophia, this is real. This is going to work. He heard her breath catch. Then she was laughing and crying at the same time. My father!
He would be so proud. He already was. He told you so in that letter. I know, but now I believe it.
Daniel looked at Lily, who had fallen asleep at his desk, her head pillowed on her arms. Thank you for believing in me, for giving me a reason to stop hiding. You gave yourself the reason, Daniel. I just reminded you it was there. The prototype took 6 months to build. Sophia funded it personally, not through the company, not through investors, just her own money. She said she didn't want anyone else's fingerprints on her father's dream. Daniel worked from the cottage, designing every component, testing every system. Lily helped when she could, pointing out imbalances his instruments missed, listening for harmonics that existed only in her extraordinary perception. The engine was beautiful, sleek, powerful, smaller than anyone expected, capable of generating thrust that would have seemed impossible 5 years ago. They built it in a converted warehouse on the edge of the estate, away from prying eyes. On the night before the first test, Daniel couldn't sleep. He sat on the porch of the cottage looking up at the stars. Sarah had loved the stars. She used to say they were proof that the universe was bigger than any problem they could face. You're thinking about her? He turned. Sophia was walking toward him, wrapped in a coat against the cool night air. How did you know I was out here? I couldn't sleep either. Saw your light was off, but your door was open. Figured you'd be somewhere brooding. I don't brood. You absolutely brood. You're the broodiest person I've ever met. She sat down beside him on the porch steps. What are you thinking? About tomorrow? Whether it's going to work? Whether I'm ready for everything to change again? Are you scared? Terrified. Good. That means you care. She pulled her coat tighter. Can I tell you something? Of course. When my father died, I thought I'd never feel anything again. I thought I'd just go through the motions forever. Running the company, making deals, being the ice queen everyone expected me to be. She paused. Then you fixed my car. That was just mechanical work. No, it wasn't. It was the first time in 3 years that someone saw through me. You didn't treat me like a CEO or a billionaire or my father's daughter. You treated me like a person who was scared and angry and completely lost. You threw money at my feet. I know, I was horrible. And you still helped me. She turned to look at him. Why? Daniel thought about it. Because Lily asked me to. That's the only reason? No. Because I saw something in you. Something broken. And I recognized it because I was broken too. Are you still broken? I don't know. Maybe. But it feels different now.
like the pieces are starting to fit together again, even if they don't look the same as before. Sophia was quiet for a moment. Then she reached over and took his hand. Daniel didn't pull away. Whatever happens tomorrow, I want you to know that you've already changed my life. You and Lily. You've given me something I didn't think I'd ever have again. What's that? A family? The word hung in the air between them, heavy, significant. Sophia, I'm not asking for anything, I'm just telling you. That's what you've become to me. Family. And I don't want to lose that, no matter what happens with the engine. Daniel squeezed her hand. You won't lose it. Promise? I promise. They sat there until dawn broke over the estate, still holding hands, watching the stars fade into daylight. The test was scheduled for 10 in the morning. Only 5 people were present: Daniel, Sophia, Lily, and 2 trusted engineers who had signed confidentiality agreements thicker than phone books. No press, no fanfare, just the people who needed to be there. The engine sat in the center of the warehouse, connected to monitoring equipment and fuel lines. It looked almost organic, curves and angles that seemed to flow into each other like a living thing. It's pretty, Lily said. It sounds happy. It's not running yet, sweetheart. I know, but it wants to. It's been waiting. Daniel knelt beside her. Are you ready? Yes, Daddy. Are you? He looked at the engine, at Sophia standing with her arms crossed, her face a mask of controlled anxiety, at the 2 engineers double-checking their readings. Yeah, I'm ready. He walked to the control station. His hands were steady even though his heart was pounding. Beginning ignition sequence. The first phase activated. Fuel began flowing through the lines. The acoustic sensors came online, their readings scrolling across his monitor. Harmonic stable, one of the engineers reported. All systems nominal. Proceeding to phase 2. The engine hummed. Not a mechanical hum, something deeper, richer, like a note held perfectly in tune. Lily closed her eyes and smiled. There it is. The singing. Phase 2 complete. Preparing for detonation sequence. This was the moment, the breakthrough or the failure, the point where Edward Hayes's engine had always collapsed. Daniel looked at Sophia. She nodded once. He pressed the button. The first detonation fired, a controlled explosion, perfectly timed, generating thrust that pushed against the test restraints. The acoustic control system responded instantly, adjusting the timing of the next detonation by microseconds. Sequence stable. The engineer's voice was filled with disbelief. My God, it's actually stable. Another detonation, another adjustment. The engine was singing now. Each explosion a note in a symphony of controlled power. Thrust output exceeding projections. Fuel efficiency at 63% above baseline. This is impossible. Not impossible, just different. The test ran for 3 minutes. 3 minutes of perfect operation. 3 minutes of an engine that should have torn itself apart, running smoother than anything any of them had ever seen. Then Daniel shut it down. The warehouse fell silent. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Sophia started laughing. She laughed until tears streamed down her face, until she was doubled over with the force of it. It works. It actually works. Lily ran to Daniel and threw her arms around him. Daddy, you did it! The engine is so happy! He held his daughter tight and looked at the machine they had built. His design, Lily's intuition, Edward Hayes's dream. We did it. All of us together. Sophia walked over to them, wiping her eyes. My father would have given anything to see this. He did see it. Through you. Through the notes he left. Through the research he started. This isn't just our achievement, Sophia. It's his, too.
She pulled both of them into a hug, Daniel and Lily together. Thank you. Thank you both. The news couldn't be contained forever.
Within a month, word had leaked. A revolutionary propulsion system, a billionaire heiress, and an unknown engineer. A little girl who could hear machines singing. The press went insane. Daniel refused all interviews. Sophia handled the public side, but she always gave him credit, always mentioned his name, always called it the Carter-Hayes engine. You should be the face of this. You deserve the recognition. I don't want recognition. I want to be home when Lily gets off the school bus. You can have both. No, I can't. Not the way you mean. I've been down that road. I know where it leads. Fame and interviews and constant attention. That's not life. That's performance. I won't perform anymore. Even if it means the world never knows who you really are. The people who matter know. Lily knows. You know. That's enough. Sophia studied him for a long moment. You're the strangest man I've ever met. You've said that before. It's still true. The money came next. Licensing deals, government contracts, international partnerships. The Carter-Hayes engine was worth billions, more than either of them had imagined. Daniel took enough to secure Lily's future. College fund, trust account, a new cottage on the estate slightly bigger than the old one, with a workshop attached. The rest he gave away. Education programs for underprivileged kids, scholarships for students who couldn't afford engineering school, funding for community centers and after-school programs in rural Appalachia and Mississippi, places that needed it most. You're donating your fortune. Sophia shook her head. Do you have any idea how insane that sounds? It's not my fortune. It's Lily's inheritance. She gets what she needs. The rest goes to people who need it more. Most people would keep it, build an empire, leave a dynasty. I'm not most people, and Lily doesn't need a dynasty. She needs a father who comes home for dinner. Sophia fell silent. When she spoke again, her voice was soft.
Sarah was right about you. What do you mean? You said she told you to stop trying to save the world and start trying to save yourself. But I don't think that's what she meant. I think she meant that saving yourself and saving the world aren't opposites. I think she meant you could do both. But only if you stopped running from who you really were. Daniel didn't respond, but something shifted in his chest. A weight he'd been carrying for 6 years, finally starting to lift. A year passed. Lily turned 9. They celebrated with a small party, just Daniel, Sophia, and a few friends Lily had made at school. Cake with too much frosting, presents wrapped in newspaper because Lily thought fancy wrapping paper was wasteful. Sophia gave her a custom-built listening device, the same technology from the engine miniaturized into something a child could use. It amplifies sound frequencies so you can hear the things that are usually too quiet.
Lily hugged her so hard she almost knocked her over.
Thank you, Miss Sophia.
Just Sophia, sweetheart. I told you.
Thank you, Sophia.
After the party, after Lily had gone to bed, Daniel and Sophia sat on the porch of the new cottage. The stars were out again. They always seemed brighter here.
Can I ask you something?
Always.
That night in the garage, when I told you I'd marry you if you started the car, did you ever think I was serious?
Daniel laughed.
You were mocking me.
I was. But part of me meant it. Part of me was so desperate, so lost, that I would have done anything for someone who could fix things. She paused.
You fixed a lot more than my car, Daniel. You fixed yourself. I just helped.
Is that what we've been doing? Helping each other? He turned to look at her. She was beautiful in the starlight. Not the cold beauty of the billionaire he'd first met. Something warmer. More real. What are you asking, Sophia?
I'm asking if you ever think about us.
As more than whatever this is. Daniel was quiet for a long time. I think about Sarah. Every day I think about what she would want for me, for Lily, for whatever time we have left. And what do you think she'd want? She'd want me to be happy. She'd want Lily to have a complete family. She'd want me to stop punishing myself for not being there when she needed me. Have you stopped? I'm trying. It's hard. Sophia reached over and took his hand, the same way she had on the night before the test. I'm not asking you to replace her. I'm not asking you to forget. I'm just asking if there's room. For me. For something new. Daniel looked at their intertwined hands, at the cottage where his daughter slept, at the stars Sarah had loved so much. I made you a promise once, that you wouldn't lose me, that I'd be here. You did. I meant it, but I think maybe... He took a breath. I think maybe I'm ready to mean something more. Sophia's eyes filled with tears. Are you sure? No. I'm terrified. But Lily told me once that courage is just being scared and doing the thing anyway. She's a smart kid. The smartest. He leaned in and kissed her. Soft. Gentle. A question more than a statement. She kissed him back. When they pulled apart, she was smiling. For the record, you did start the car. That was over a year ago. I know, but I told you I always keep my word. She grinned. Are you proposing to me right now? I'm reminding you that you have a standing offer. No pressure. Daniel laughed. For the first time in years, the sound didn't feel forced. Let's start with dinner. See where it goes from there. Dinner sounds perfect. They sat together on the porch until the sky began to lighten, talking about everything and nothing, making plans neither of them had ever expected to make. Inside the cottage, Lily slept peacefully, dreaming of engines that sang and machines that listened, and a world where broken things could always be fixed if you just paid attention. 2 years later, they married. The ceremony was small, just family and close friends. Lily was the flower girl, scattering petals with more enthusiasm than precision. Daniel wore a suit for the first time in nearly a decade. He tugged at the collar constantly. You look uncomfortable. I am uncomfortable. I told you I'd never wear a suit. You told me you'd never wear a suit to work. This isn't work. This is the happiest day of my life. Fine, but I'm changing right after the ceremony. Deal. They exchanged vows on the estate grounds near the old greenhouse where everything had changed. Sophia had it restored. New glass, new plants, but the same bones. A reminder of where they'd come from. Her vows were eloquent, polished, the kind of words a woman who ran $1 billion company would say. His vows were simple. I spent 4 years being invisible, hiding from the world, hiding from myself. Then I met you, and you threw money at my feet, and my daughter said your heart was broken, and I thought maybe 2 broken people can fix each other. Maybe that's how it works. He looked at Lily standing beside them with tears streaming down her face. Sarah taught me how to listen. Lily taught me how to hope. And you taught me how to trust again. I don't know what comes next. I don't have all the answers. But I know I want to figure it out with you. Both of you. For as long as I have. The minister pronounced them married. Lily cheered louder than anyone. At the reception, Daniel danced with his daughter while Sophia watched, her heart full to bursting. Daddy, are you happy? Yes, sweetheart. Very happy. Is Mommy happy too? Daniel looked up at the sky. The sun was setting, painting everything gold. Yeah, I think she is.
Good. Because I want everyone to be happy. That's my wish.
That's a good wish, sweetheart.
I know. I'm good at wishes. And at listening.
And at finding broken things that need fixing. You certainly are.
Daddy,
Yes?
I'm glad you stopped being invisible. I like it better when people can see you.
Daniel pulled her close. Me too, sweetheart. Me too.
The years that followed were good ones. The Carter Hayes engine changed the world just as Edward Hayes had dreamed. Space travel became cheaper, cleaner, more accessible. The satellites that had almost failed now powered communication networks, bringing free internet to schools in the Appalachians and telemedicine to rural Mississippi. Daniel never went back to working full-time. He consulted when interesting problems arose, always from home, always with Lily's input when she wanted to give it. Sophia learned to balance her empire with her family. She delegated more, trusted more, came home for dinner every night. Lily grew up smart and kind and extraordinary. She went to MIT like her father, studied acoustic engineering, wrote papers that people would still be reading decades later. But she never forgot how to listen. On the 10th anniversary of the day he'd fixed Sophia's car, Daniel stood in the garage where it had all begun. The Ferrari was still there, still gleaming, still running perfectly. Sophia found him there standing beside it. Remembering? Always. Any regrets? He thought about it, about Sarah, about the years of hiding, about the night he'd walked into this garage with his daughter and changed everything. No, not anymore. Good. She walked over and stood beside him. Because I have something to tell you. What's that? Lily called. She finished the project, the propulsion enhancement. Daniel smiled, his daughter carrying on the work, making it her own. She said it worked even better than she expected. She said the engines are singing louder than ever. She's remarkable. She gets it from her father. She gets it from Sarah. She gets it from all of us. That's how families work.
We carry pieces of each other, and those pieces become something new.
Daniel looked at the woman he'd married, the woman who'd thrown money at his feet and mocked him and challenged him and loved him. Started. What? The car. Start it for old time's sake. Sophia laughed. You're ridiculous. I know. Start it anyway. She slid into the driver's seat, turned the key. The engine roared to life. Perfect. Pure. Just like the first time. Daniel closed his eyes and listened. He heard the harmonics, the rhythm, the song that machines sing when everything is exactly as it should be. He heard Lily somewhere far away, listening to her own engines, her own music. He heard Sarah, her voice gentle in his memory. Stop trying to save the world. Start trying to save yourself. He'd done both. In the end, they were the same thing. Sophia stepped out of the car and walked over to him. What are you smiling about? Everything. Absolutely everything. She kissed him. The engine purred behind them. The sun streamed through the garage windows, and Daniel Carter, once invisible, once broken, once certain he would never be whole again, stood in the light and let the world see him. Because in the end, that was the lesson he'd learned. Not from MIT, not from military projects, not from all the machines he'd ever fixed. From a woman who'd mocked him. From a daughter who could hear things no one else could hear. From a wife he'd lost, and a love he'd found. And a life he'd never expected to build. The lesson was simple. The most important things in this world, the engines that matter, the systems that sustain us, the connections that make us human, they don't work because they're perfect. They work because someone takes the time to listen, to really, truly listen, to the quiet voices, to the hidden harmonics, to the people who seem invisible until you look closer.
That's what Sarah had taught him. That's what Lily had shown him. That's what Sophia had helped him remember.
And standing there in the garage, where everything began, Daniel Carter finally understood. He was never meant to be invisible. He was meant to be exactly who he was. A listener, a healer, a father, a husband. A man who could hear what the world needed and found the courage to answer. That was his gift. That was his purpose. That was the only legacy worth leaving. And it was more than enough.